All the devotees with Prabhupada are just arriving at the new temple that we got just a few months ago in Rue Le Sueur. So Bhagavan thought that rather than Prabhupada speaking in the temple room, he should speak from the balcony so that he could speak to the people in the street. And also he liked the idea that it was a kingly way of speaking, as in the past the French kings would speak from that balcony to the crowds. But he had to ask a permission, so he asked the administration of Paris if it was possible. And the officials told him, yes, it's possible, but you cannot use a microphone. So when he said that to Prabhupada, Prabhupada started to laugh, and he said, wow, this is the way to say yes when in fact you want to say no. And as it's impossible to talk to a big crowd of people without a microphone, they will not hear. In the London temple, the deities were carved by Shamsundar, and here also the Jagannath deities have been carved by the devotees themselves. So it was a French devotee who was a sculptor, who was called Dayamrigya, who carved them, and then I painted them. And there is two particularities on Subhadra here. That first, she's smaller. She should be a little bit bigger. And the reason is that when Dayamrigya wanted to carve her, he forgot that he needed to have the little top knot on her head. And then when he realized he had to do that, then he had to make her shorter in order to be able to carve the top knot on her head. So that's why she's kind of smaller. She also has different eyes than most of the Jagannath deities. And the reason was that I painted them according to a picture that I got from India, but I didn't like the look of the eyes of Subhadra, so I just changed the eyes and I made them lotus-shaped eyes, which no Subhadra deity ever had in any deities from India. But everybody found it very, very beautiful, and Prabhupada found them very beautiful, though very unusual eyes for Subhadra.
Later during that visit to London, before Bhagavan and I went on to Paris, Srila Prabhupada called us into his room and to give us some more instructions and inspiration. And I was very much hoping at that time to receive a personal instruction from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada gave many general instructions, but of course a disciple always hankers to have some personal interrelationship with his spiritual master and receive some special instructions. So I was a little shy to ask, but at one point I spoke up and I said, Srila Prabhupada, could you give me some instruction? So Srila Prabhupada leaned over the desk at that time and he looked at me in my eyes. He said, preach boldly and have faith in the holy names. I've always tried to follow that instruction of Srila Prabhupada as a guideline for the rest of my life. I was so nervous at the time, I don't remember how I felt. I just felt blessed that Prabhupada would see me, notice me, and give some instruction that I could build the rest of my devotional career upon. And then Prabhupada, to further encourage both of us, he reached over into his drawer and he gave me one of his dhotis, and he gave Bhagavan Das one of his undershirts. And he just smiled, and then after a little more conversation, we left for our service in Paris, France. I did wear that dhoti, actually. It was bright saffron. Of course, I was a grihastra at that time, but it was the tadiya, it was the paraphernalia of the spiritual master, and therefore divine. We know that Mahaprabhu himself, in order to encourage his own followers, his own disciples, he would sometimes give them pieces of cloth. A piece of his cloth was sent to Maharaj Bhattaparudra, who worshipped as none-different than the Lord. A piece of his cloth was sent to Gopal Bhatta Goswami in Vrindavan. So this tadiya, this nectar, this mercy of my spiritual master, I took that very seriously. I used to wear that as a chadar, actually. And sometimes when the sannyasis would come through, they would chide me, "You're grihastra and you're wearing saffron?" I said, "Yes, this is no ordinary cloth. This is the dhoti of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. I'm not taking it off for anything."
those of us who came into France as devotees from outside the country quickly learned that French culture was a highly intellectual culture. I think a young person in France in those days, by the age of 13 or 14, probably knew more about history and politics than a college graduate in America. And one thing that we went out of our way to do was arrange as often as possible for Srila Prabhupada to meet with intellectuals and thought leaders of the day. So he met with college professors, and he met with Cardinal Danielou, and he met with leaders from the World Health Organization. He met with leading Sanskritists. And the meetings were important because it gave us an opportunity to see how does a pure devotee of the Lord speak to different levels of people. And I think what was most astonishing was Srila Prabhupada's ability to listen carefully to each person's particular level of spiritual development and address them on that level. As they approached him, Srila Prabhupada would reciprocate, sometimes becoming very, very firm, very outspoken. Why do you speak this philosophy? Don't you understand the dangers here? He was concerned not out of any kind of pride or a sense of superiority, but because this was dangerous. These philosophies are leading people astray. Atmahana, killers of the soul.
One of the leading figures in the Rosicrucian movement in Paris came to see Prabhupada, and he was quite naive because Prabhupada kept saying, so what is that? And what does that mean? As if Prabhupada had no idea about anything. It was sort of a technique that he was employing. And me and Yogeshwar, we started to get the giggles. And we're sitting behind the man. Because whatever the man said, Prabhupada would say, why? Anyway, after leading this person on and on and on, finally Prabhupada said, so what is the ultimate? He said it's indescribable. Then Prabhupada said, that means you don't know. But still the man never became, put off by Prabhupada. He thought that Prabhupada was really, wanted to learn about the Rosicrucians. It was really very funny. Anyway, and another point that Prabhupada said, so what is the highest thing? He said, well, it's a flame. Prabhupada said, a flame? Yes. Prabhupada said, why a flame? Why not a person? But like I said, the man never caught on that Prabhupada was, just pulling him along into this endless forest of foolishness.
One of those that we invited was a psychiatrist. And the reason we invited him is because he was Christian, but in his care of his patients, he was using religion, talking a lot about Christianity. So we thought that would be very interesting to have him meet Prabhupada. So we invited him to come. I went to meet him, to bring him to Prabhupada. And the first thing he said was, where's the patient? So we said, well, there's no patient. We invited you to come and meet our spiritual master. I said, but I came to see a patient. Where's the patient? And when he saw there was no patient, he didn't want to come and he just left. So I was kind of embarrassed, and I went back and to explain to Prabhupada that he didn't want to come out because he thought he was coming to take care of some sick person. And so Prabhupada just laughed and he said he didn't realize he was the patient and we were going to cure him.
When Prabhupada arrived at the airport in Paris, of course there were a lot of devotees there with flower garlands and so many things. And at the same time,